episode of Healthy Living with yours sincerely, Joy Chiwendu. Today's topic is understanding Alzheimer. Yes, it's a very interesting situation that not everybody knows or is aware about. So that is why we are bringing it your way to discuss and understand what this issue is. And of course, I won't be doing this alone. I have with me Dr. Leonard Asikidi. My apologies. Good afternoon, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, nice to have you here. So let's quickly start. First of all, what is Alzheimer's disease?
Good afternoon, viewers at home. Alzheimer's disease is a gradual degenerative disease of the brain cells.
Okay.
And when Alzheimer's disease can take a long period before you ever detect it. There are different stages of Alzheimer's disease. For example, you can have the preclinical stages or stage where no symptoms will be detected. You have the mild, you have the moderate, and you also have the severe. And Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia.
Okay.
So, Alzheimer's disease can be defined as a gradual degenerative disease of the brain cells, and it involves, there are certain proteins that are deposited in the brain that take several years to develop.
Okay.
And these proteins, there are two types. There's the tau proteins, and these ones are the proteins that are deposited along the other cells that form the brain cells. Because the brain cells contains over 100 billion cells, and other brain cells, and other cells that connect the
brain together.
brain.
Okay.
So there are different types of proteins that are deposited there, that eventually lead to degeneration of the brain function.
Okay. So this Alzheimer's disease, how does it not really affect the brain? You've established the fact that it's a brain issue, it's a brain disorder.
Now, what happens is this. I will still go back again to talk about the different, types. There is the Alzheimer's disease that actually occurs between the 40 and 50 years old. And this is called early onset, very rare. And we also have the one that happens from age 65 upwards. Usually, it is common among those who are above 65 and upwards. And at the age 65, you find that those in our population, about 1 out of every 10 people within that age bracket develops Alzheimer's disease. Then those who are 85 and above, about a third of them develop Alzheimer's disease. And now, when a patient comes with Alzheimer's disease, it is a condition that is very challenging, demanding, and it requires, multidisciplinary care. Now, Alzheimer's disease is a chronic condition. It is not curable.
Oh, wow.
It's not something that you say, oh, we will give disease drugs, or we'll give treatment, and eventually the patient will be cured. No,
but then how do you go about it? If somebody has it, how would they go about it?
Yes. Like I said, it's not curable. Just like we have several other diseases like hypertension, diabetes, they are not curable diseases.
But
so
treatable.
you have to manage them throughout life. Now, if it occurs early in life, of course, most of the time we manage the symptoms. There are certain, the most challenging aspect of it is the home-based care. That is the care you directly offer to the patient at home. And such patients, like in our environment, in civilized places, there are occasions you may have to, send them to places where
Caregiving
they can
homes.
have vacation, where of course they look after them. But here we don't have such facilities in Nigeria.
Sure.
So now, when a patient comes with Alzheimer's disease, like I said, it's very challenging and requires the cooperation of every member of the
All
family.
the family.
Now they suffer memory problems. They suffer, they have problems with self-care. They have problems with behavior. They have problems with mood. So, and we're not saying that every single patient has all these symptoms all at the same time. And for the different stages I mentioned earlier on, these stages can also overlap. They are not distinctively divided.
Okay.
So they overlap. So if a patient comes with Alzheimer's disease, the major care that they require is they require somebody who will be dedicated in terms of looking after them, depending on the stage. For example, in the severe stage, you do virtually everything for the patient. Now, if a patient comes down with Alzheimer's disease, maybe at the mild or phase, now you need to know that this patient has memory problem. Therefore, you do not go altering the environment. For example, you go to the patient's room where he kept his cup before you remove it from there. No, you don't go altering the patient's room. You have to put that patient in a familiar environment, because at the early stage they may have problem with skills they just learned or information they just got. They easily forget. Just say like something you just discussed just now. You ask them, they cannot remember. But when it now goes to the moderate stage, you discover that they now have problem, with remembering,
Even their names.
even recognizing faces, remembering the school they attended. You ask them, which school did you attend? They will remember. You ask them, you can even ask them where they come from. They will remember. Such patients can wander out of the house. They would probably say they want to go see a neighbor. You end up looking for them and you may never find them. So you have to closely follow them up. Knowing if you now realize that either your parent or your grandparent or whoever is suffering from this condition. So because of their memory issues, and sometimes I also say they also have mood issues. They can be depressed, they can be agitated. So you just need to understand that this is not the usual person you used to know. And in doing that, of course, that will affect the way and manner of care you give to this patient. It can even get to a stage, like I said, you help the patient to do everything: feeding, bathing, clothing, anything you can think of. So Alzheimer's disease is, very demanding, very, very demanding. And sometimes those who care for them, they may just lose their temper, or they themselves may even fall ill and become depressed.
Because
so they need what we call self-care. They need what we call self-care. Sometimes you need to also excuse them, let somebody else take their job for some time, so that they can also have some relief.
Of course. So how do somebody who just easily forgetting things now think, okay, I'm having Alzheimer? For example, let's say as a person, I forgot where I kept my key as of yesterday and I'm looking for it. Or maybe it's even on my hand, but I'm looking for the key around. Can that be related to Alzheimer?
No, well, you see, before you make the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, it takes a concerted effort of the physician.
Okay.
Because you don't just use just one criteria to conclude the diagnosis. You ask questions from the patient, you ask questions from even neighbors, relatives, those who live with the patient, about behavior, about self-care and what have you. So you put all those things together, and you arrive at a diagnosis. It's not what you, just a non-physician, can just say, this man, he has Alzheimer's disease, because there are several other things, like I said, is a common cause of dementia. There are other things that can also cause memory problems. So you cannot just, as a layman, just label somebody as an Alzheimer's case.
Okay. So once again, could you remind us of the symptoms of Alzheimer? So at least if I'm having an older person at home and I'm seeing all the symptoms, I can now bring it up to a physician and say, please, let's check out this person. Could you remind us of those symptoms?
Now, symptoms I mentioned earlier on, one, memory issues.
Memory issues, yes.
Now, they could have behavioral issues. They could have learning issues. They could have, what do I call it, problem with self-care. So you put all these together and you arrive at a diagnosis.
Okay.
Like I said, dementia is also part of the whole complex.
Okay. So are there ways, like, for instance, can diets be used as a way to suppress it or decrease the chances of having Alzheimer?
No. Now, there are certain things we need to know. Let me just call them risk factors.
Okay.
For example, if in a family you discover that your first degree relatives, I'm talking about your parents or your siblings, any of them has features of Alzheimer's disease, there is the likelihood that you may be predisposed.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that genetically,
You may heredity.
yes. Then you, apart from, the issue of heredity, there are no clear-cut other causes of Alzheimer's disease. Because, for example, like I told you earlier on, that from ages 40 to 50, some people can have Alzheimer's disease. But this particular age group, it is very rare in them, very rare. It is commoner among those people who are between 65 and above, and it's much more commoner among those who are 85 and above. Of course, in this our environment, those who are 85 and above are very few.
No, I don't think so. I think I've seen quite a few that at least 85 and above and are still okay.
No, what I'm saying, I'm not saying they don't exist. If you compare the population, if you look at life expectancy in Nigeria, we are still moving at less than 60. That's life expectancy in this environment. So what I'm saying is that if you look at a man, or if you see a man that is 85, ask him of his classmates.
If it's going to remember.
How many of them are left? So ask him of his classmates, those of his age grade. Okay. How many of them are left? How many were they in those days when they were in secondary or university? So you now discover that those who are within that age bracket, they are few.
Imagine. So in conclusion, basically, diet cannot even suppress the risk of
It's not an issue of diet. It's not an issue of diet. Okay. Like I said, it is something that just gradually develops in the human, in the brain.
So it's like the body fighting itself?
It's not an immune thing. The body the brain, those proteins I'm talking about just begin to develop in the brain. They now form plaques.
Okay.
And when they form plaques in the brain, they now distort the activity of the brain. It's like a computer. The brain is a computer on its own. So when you distort the normal transmission in the brain, of course you get a distorted personality.
Yes. A shutdown happens. So, sir, doctor, give us ways that we can actually live healthier. So at least before that time frame happens, before we get to 85, we should still have at least a strong mind. So at least by that time, maybe if our body is very strong, we can work our way through it. So how can we live healthier, at least to avoid it?
Well, this is a general and open question. Well, for you to live healthier, in life, I used to tell people that there are a lot of things that determines your healthy nature, and most of them is caused by you. If you want to live long, there are a lot of things you will do on your own. For example, the kind of food you eat, the group you associate with, whether you live a sedentary life or active one, you need to exercise yourself, on daily basis as much as you can. At least 10,000 steps daily will make you feel healthier. You need to avoid excessive intake of alcohol because apart from damages it does to the liver and what have you, you can also drink and go and kill yourself in an accident. So you need to avoid cigarette smoking because we know it is said in some parlors that every stick of cigarette you take reduces your lifespan by 7 seconds.
Sure.
So why gradually kill yourself? So the kind of life you live impacts your health a lot. So you need to know that you need to live a decent life and you need to avoid use of drugs. You need to avoid the use of drugs because you may be alive, yet you don't even know whether you're alive because of the effect of drugs that you take. So for you to live a healthy life, it lies in your hands.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. I do hope you all enjoyed today's episode because definitely I learned, and I'm sure you also learned something. So until next episode of Healthy Living, I remain yours sincerely, Joy Chiwendu Okpani. Good afternoon.